My name is Aminta Kilawan Narayan, and I'm the founder and executive director of South Queens Women's March. I had read about the death of Donna Rehana Dojoy, who was a woman who had been working at Gemini Lounge in Richmond Hill and was brutally murdered by her husband, who subsequently committed suicide in Ozone Park. And I was frustrated because I felt that community members didn't have that movement that they needed to know that gender justice mattered in our community, that we were going to lift up our voices in solidarity with women, girls, and gender fluid people who were victims and survivors of violence. And I thought to myself, what could it look like to organize the first ever Women's March locally in my community? We applied for a permit. We started reaching out to community-based organizations and governmental stakeholders to be part of our community resource fair and to have it saturated with resources that our community didn't know about, that existed and that were available to them. Everything was moving. We formalized as a nonprofit organization, and then the pandemic hit. We had to figure out, what were we going to do to still fulfill our mission, to tackle issues related to gender injustice, including gender-based violence, and create a world that we would be collectively liberated in. South Queens Women's March started as 6 women, and we've now grown to over 60 active members. What does South Queens Women's March do? We have various different program areas. We wanted to have programming even from the inception of the pandemic. Whether those be virtual spaces, we were still going to create the spaces to talk about healthy relationships, to talk about safety planning, to talk about all the ways in which barriers, personal boundaries, were completely broken down. And so we held many workshops on a monthly basis to address these issues. Additionally, we started to do arts as healing nights to cope and to promote self-care when it comes to gender-based violence and being survivors and making sure that we have what we need. We also have art integrated into most of our work, and we do that because art can be a catalyst for social change. And so we had our first ever museum exhibit at King Manor Museum called Made in Queens, featured 14 BIPOC artists. We also recognize that economic empowerment is very critical to ensuring that we can live our fullest lives and to ensuring that we don't stay in abusive relationships or that we don't become financially dependent on any one individual. And so we've been doing a lot of professional development work, whether that be resume and cover letter revamping, college application preparation, because a lot of our community members are from immigrant communities. A lot of them have not gone through the application process before. And we've been building political power as well. We want to ensure that women, girls, and gender fluid people in our community are leaders of their own accord and that they're getting involved in the political process and whatever that means for them. We do a lot of mutual aid work. It is our most visible work in the community. We hold food pantries, and they're different than your average food pantry because we try to put a lot of community care and thought and compassion into the work that we do.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanuja Rosario and I am a founding board member of South Queens Women's March. One of our things is to ensure that also families of survivors are supported during this time. Oftentimes, survivors are stuck at home with their abusers. They don't have the financial means or access to even feed their families. We wanted to make sure that we're bringing food to our community that they can eat and that they need. And so you'll see that we have many products such as potatoes, we have onions, we have a lot of canned goods, we have a lot of snacks, we have bread, we have period supplies, we have PPE, we have gender-based violence resources that they can take with them as well. We even have BIPOC authored books.
We offer various items that we know are community hits. And a part of that is because we want to ensure that we're providing what our community needs. We have held many different chalkbacks. Chalkback is a play on the words talkback, right? So Chalkback Against Sexual Harassment is one event that we had right at the intersection of Lefferts and Liberty to address the sexual harassment and catcalling that exists on Lefferts and Liberty. Recently, we did a chalkback specifically on gender-based violence and why it's important for our community to respond and recognize that this is continuing to be an issue. Additionally, we want to make sure that women and girls and gender fluid people have what they need, so that means period supplies. We have been working towards making sure that those products are also offered to our community members. It's not just charity, but it's solidarity work, and that is the work that we are doing at South Queens Women's March. My hope is that we grow even more. I hope that in the long-term future that we have that infrastructure where we know that this movement is not going anywhere, where we are going to continue to be that household name. How beautiful it would be for us to have a space of our own that we can call the South Queens Women's March community space, where we can do all of this work and have a central location. What it could look like for us to have full-time staff we continue to lead with compassion and with love and with justice at the very forefront of why we do this work. And I just think we can and should do more and more of that.
Our voice is our